Just for introduction, I've worked as a veterinarian a long time in developing countries, and then after that I found that I needed to know more about my own country and worked with dairy farmers in my own country, and I saw then the ideas of how that could be interlinked. So that is what I would like to present to you today. So just to give a very brief overview of what has happened in the Netherlands, that 60 years ago livestock keeping was very similar to what happens in developing countries today. Since the 1960s there have been conscious policies for scale enlargement and intensification, and this was because there was this policy of no more hunger after the Second World War, and so farmers were obliged to have milk tanks. Every farmer had to have one in his farm, and as a result of that they also needed to have a big stable in order to fill the tank and to move along in terms of productivity. And there were a lot of conducive policies there, and that is important for you to know. This has not just happened because it would give more income to farmers. There were conducive policies that led to this. There was, and especially the first decades, there was an active market protection. There were fixed prices per liter of milk. So the farmer would know that if indeed I get have more milk, I would also get a better price. There was also a very big access for credit for all farmers that wanted to do this kind of extension. And then there was an active support to the education, extension and research groups. That was lots of money was put into that as well. And there were rigorous disease control programs for the whole country. And there were also subsidies for chemicals like inorganic fertilizer and all that. And of course there was also like the artificial insemination and breeding policies were stimulated quite intensively, so leading to these Holstein breeds that were actually re-imported. It was the Dutch cows that went to the US, then they made them more dairy and they came back as Friesian Holsteins to our country. And importantly, the land structure was changed dramatically. Where there was water, they make dikes and they would make polders, so have more land, gain land. And the other aspect was there was this, all the small plots were put together, and farmers would have plots bringing together in order to facilitate mechanization. And all the natural barriers between the plots were taken away. And today farmers are struggling to get these natural barriers back again. So it is important for you to know that this also had an enormous amount of subsidies, especially from the EU. And you can see here from the 1983 to 2009 the amount of subsidies in billions. So there was a height in 87, like nearly 4 billion, and this has gradually gone down, but still today our country gets around 1 billion of euros for our farming. It's not because our farmers earn so much, no, it's also they get a lot of European subsidies. So this has resulted in quite a dramatic change, and I want to show you just a few changes. If you look at the yellow part up there, you can see that the number of dairy farms have reduced by nearly 90%. So there used to be 180,000 dairy farms, and now there are only, in 2007, 21,300. So it has reduced nearly 90%. And the milk production, of course, per animal has gone up a lot. You can see that the milk production has gone up from 4,200 liters per cow per lactation to 7,800, and it is even more today. That was in 2007. So the milk production per cow per lactation has doubled in the process. And the other important thing that is important to know, that the labor productivity in terms of how much labor you need per liter of milk has increased a lot. Labor productivity per milk per hour was 8 in 1960 and it is 141. So there's much less labor. That explains why there's so reduced number of people working in dairy today. But the other element that happened was that the quality of the manure of the cattle reduced a lot. They started to be fed with soy and maize, and that gave a whole change also in the intestines and the rumen of the cow, and the manure quality changed a lot. It's not solid anymore, but it's very fluid. And one of the things that happened was there was such a big nitrogen ammonia loss to the air that we had a lot of environmental problems. Acid rain, things like that. And so the government started to have a lot of environmental regulations. And one of the regulations is that all the manure today cannot be spread just over the field, but it has to be injected by big machines like you see here. The manure is inside the little wheels. They go into the soil and they will bring all the manure into the soil. All of this has led to a drastic reduction of soil fertility, both because of the quality and the quantity of the manure. This has resulted in a reduced farm efficiency in terms of nitrogen. In the 1950s, the nitrogen efficiency, or say the use of nitrogen in the farm, was very efficient. And because of the introduction of the system, this went down dramatically. And now farmers have started to realize that, so they are starting to have new policies and new ways of farming to get the efficiency back again. But you can see that it is very difficult. It's not easy. It's much easier to lose it than to recover it. So what we can see now, actually, it's a bit of a funny thing, but it's actually what is happening, that our animals in our country are fed with soy from like Argentina and South America. We have a very intensive system in our country that produces much more than what we need, and with a lot of EU subsidies. And then this is being brought to other countries where other farmers may find themselves difficult to compete with that kind of production. So that's the reality and the history as we see today. And you see a beautiful farm. A farmer has 80 cows, and they're lovely, and the fields are green and beautiful, but there are lots of problems behind that you don't see. And so if you have like a very brief overview, you can say that there's a social problem, that over 90% has had to stop, so these people had to move out, and where did they go? Then there's also today, the farmers have a very low income, because the income rate per liter of milk is very low. And that's our farmers, in fact, they seem rich, but they are not. And that's why still many farmers have to go out. And the other one is that the income prospects are also difficult because of the milk quota, and the subsidies will be abolished by 2015, so that will change the whole picture also. And young people are moving out of farming. That is, they just don't want it. They see how their parents are struggling, and they don't want that for themselves. And there is an increasing criticism and concern of the general public. They say, well, these farmers, why do they produce? Animal well-being is not good, climate change, all of that. Our farmers are not doing a good job. So this is a kind of a bleak picture. But it's not as bleak as this would seem. What are the ways out? You see that lots of farmers are still moving out. Every day, I believe there's 5 farmers moving out of farming every day in our country. Now there's another option, that the farmers, and that is increasingly so, our farmers move out to other countries. They start big farms in Eastern Germany, no, Eastern Europe. Yeah, they go all over the place. Portugal also, yeah. They go all over the place. They're very, yeah. And of course they bring their system with them. Also because in other countries you don't have these environmental regulations as much as we have them in our country. Now the third way out is that, that you have an even further scale enlargement. The farmers that move out, they will be bought up by their neighbors, and there will be a further scale enlargement with a higher technification, climate resistance floors, and they can absorb the greenhouse gases. The computerized milking systems are coming in. So all of this is also a big trend amongst our farmers. This is actually a view of where our pig production could be going. Completely transparent for the consumers. Yeah, artificial in a way. So this was actually not a reality yet, but it was like a projection of where it could go. But there are also other ways, and especially based on what farmers themselves are doing. You see that lots of farmers today, and about 40%, are diversifying their income. Are they looking for other income sources? So you see, for example, here is farmers' golf. So it's like ecotourism. They have people from cities coming and they play golf on the farmers' premises, and of course they drink and they have... so the farmers get income from that. There's another one here that is a care farm. It's very popular now. You have care for elderly people or people with needs, disabled, or mentally ill people. They can stay on the farm, and for example the farmer's wife would be a nurse and she would then take care of these people and the farmer would run his farm, so it would be mixed. And you have also seen that people that go to the farms, it gives good results in terms of care also. Here, the farm shops are also becoming increasingly popular, the direct farm. Another way out is that farmers are increasingly looking at how soil fertility can be restored again. And especially in farmers' groups, they are looking at how they can do that in a way that's economically also feasible. And they do that by reducing both fertilizer and concentrates, and by producing more milk on basis of roughage again. We have 9 main lessons I have extracted out of this. The first one is that you really have to build on the potential of farmers' knowledge and of farmers' initiatives themselves. And that research can support that. But it should not be the other way around. The farmers themselves have a lot of initiatives, and you see that they are great entrepreneurs, and they have a lot of new ways of producing that are much more eco-friendly, that are much more, that address actually a lot of problems. So we can build on that potential, analyze it more. The second lesson is that restoring soil fertility and organic matter in the soil is of major importance. That is the basis of what went wrong in our country. And so restoring this soil fertility is very important. In countries where soil fertility is still there, you have to take care not to lose it, because it's a big job to get it back. The third lesson is that it's better to focus on the farm as a whole rather than only on milk or on meat, or milk per year, or milk per lactation. If you, for example, go to milk production per life cycle, it already makes a big difference, instead of milk per lactation, because then you go to the maximization, and it's better to go to optimization. The other lesson learned is that diversifying farmers' income is a major importance. Then they are far more resilient, and they don't depend so much on these fluctuating milk prices. The fifth lesson learned is that direct marketing is of major importance again, not through supermarkets, but farmers are now, there was this article the other day that 10% of our farmers now, one way or other, have direct marketing linkages with the consumers. Through the internet, sometimes through the farmer shops, there are many, many ways. And they actually call it globalization. So it's a global tendency for local, to re-importance for local products. Globalization. Interesting, eh? Yeah. Now this is also another one. The local and the dual purpose breeds are coming back again. Now if you go for optimization of the farm, if you go to producing more milk out of roughage rather than out of soy and maize, you need another breed of animal. So in that sense, dual purpose cattle are coming back again. And many local breeds are dual purpose. So this is 3 breeds that are coming back. And interestingly, what is also coming back is this old-fashioned, say, Frisian cow, which also originally was a dual-purpose animal. Now, then another lesson is that the link between farm and the natural environment is becoming stronger again. Many of the farmers are now engaged in nature reservation of wild birds and all that, and that is a movement of farmers' groups doing this. Actually, that is the highest diversification income source for highest number of farmers engaged in this nature reservation. And this is another aspect, that is a real linkage between crops and livestock farmers. The last lesson learned is that we can revalue medicinal plants. And this is something that has happened in the Netherlands a lot because of resistance to antibiotics that was developed in microbes. Now, when we look at the final conclusions out of this whole history, we can see on the first place that our Dutch history in agriculture shows technologies that are based on old practices are actually quite modern. So you should not do away with them. The second conclusion is that these lessons about the side effects of large-scale industrial livestock keeping should be included into livestock development policies, both at national and international level. And also, as a third conclusion, developing countries could learn from this experience and make a technology leap to support their smallholder farmers. And with this technology leap, I actually mean that you do not need to follow the same path as we have followed here. You can take the example of telephones. In Europe, when telephone was started, we made telephones with lines, and it was necessary to have cords through the ground that was used to make the telephones work in each home. But now everybody is having a cell phone, and you see in Africa that it is not necessary to first make telephones through lines through the soil, but you can straight away have a cell phone that is very effective. And finally, as a last conclusion, I could say that our farmers can also benefit from age-old knowledges that still exist in developing countries, which is a very important aspect that could be taken into account. I hope that in this way we can inspire each other and prevent the repetition of mistakes that are now known to us. And if you're interested, please get in touch with Dutch Farm Experience. Thank you very much for your attention.